What is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Oxtane, and boy oh boy, it has been about 9 months, going on 10, that I have last made a video. It's been insane. I have had school, I have had work, I have had so many different things on top of just being out of the loop when it comes to gaming, World of Warcraft. Kind of had to take some time out and, just kind of look at life as a whole, but I am back, and I want to talk about, since I've started getting back into World of Warcraft, I want to talk about WoW's recent sub-drop from Q1 of Warlords of Draenor, which it dropped about 3 million subscribers in the course of 3 months. So what I'm going to do is discuss why I think it's lost that, the current state of WoW and what I think of it, and what the community as a whole thinks of it. That can range from just forum posts to YouTubers to whoever. So hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into it. So I'm kind of late to the party, but that's to be expected since I've been out of the loop for so long. I recently got back into WoW, and I discovered on YouTube through WoW Crendor and Heal vs Babyface and DD discussions and stuff like that, that WoW dropped about 3 million subscribers in the first 3 months of Warlords of Draenor's release. And when I was hit with that news, I was both surprised by it, but I also wasn't at all, if that makes any sense, which I know it doesn't. So what I'm here to talk about, as well as just about every other WoW player on YouTube is here to talk about, is why, what we think of those 3 million players just dropping off the face of the planet. At the start of Warlords, WoW went back up to 10 million subscribers, and as of May 2015, which it is, it currently sits at 7.1 million. So needless to say, that is a huge drop off in the course of about 5 or so months within the expansion. So what the hell happened? So you guys may or may not know, I don't know what I've said in my old videos up to this point, to be quite honest. I have been a WoW player since day one. And to be quite honest, this news really doesn't surprise me, considering that WoW has been in a fluctuation state of subscribers since about the release of Kata. Players nowadays are much different than they were, Wrath and before. It's definitely not that surprising given WoW's recent trends since 2010. Now, in my old discussion videos, I was definitely very critical of Blizzard and the moves, and I said, if they made us be able to purchase level 90s, that I'd quit the game and things of that nature. But I've had time to kind of mellow out, and I wasn't in the WoW scene for a long time, especially in the months leading up to Draenor. And at the beginning of Draenor, I wasn't super active. I got to 100, did a lot of dungeons, tried to start to raid, stuff like that. But then since then, I really kind of dropped off the map for a while, and WoW became like a once in every 2 weeks kind of thing. And that was for like 5 minutes just to check Garrison and then log off. Now, why am I telling you guys this? Well, not only does it explain my absence from making videos, but herein lies why 3 million people have dropped off the face of the planet. At its source, I believe it to be really the garrisons as a whole. The garrisons serve a kind of purpose that was like Dalaran or Shatrath in the other cities. Kind of a hub, except you're by yourself. You're not interacting with other players. Yes, there's Warspear and whatever the Alliance one is, I can't remember. There's places like that, but it just doesn't really have as much involvement. It's like Blizzard is trying to make the game more of a single-player experience, yet it's an MMORPG, so that really doesn't make any sense at all. It's not what World of Warcraft is about, fundamentally. And what I really want to get into in this video is just not only why I think people left Warlords, and I'll get into that really towards the end of the video, but what I really think of World of Warcraft's state right now, and things of that nature. Now, unlike a few months ago, or a year ago, or whenever I made the bulk of my discussion videos criticizing WoW, I had always been on the hardcore aspect of World of Warcraft, except in its early years where I was too young to really grasp the game fully and be a good player, or even a decent player at that. But what I will say is that Now I've had time to reflect on both the old me at the beginning of WoW, me around the Wrath Kata and early Mists era that was really hardcore, and then the me now, which is extremely casual. Mainly because I haven't even had time to like make videos or play WoW or do anything. So yeah, I've been on both ends of the spectrum and pretty much everywhere a person can be in between hardcore and casual, and again everywhere in between, literally every level. So I can understand. I mean, I'm not some omnipotent being or something that can understand what everyone's feeling about WoW, but I am extremely passionate and I love World of Warcraft to death. And I can understand people's frustrations about the recent moves that Blizzard's done, either with the in-game store, the WoW tokens, just numerous things that people are critical of. The raid finder, the easy difficulty, you don't have to work for stuff anymore, it's not rewarding. I get all of it. And then I also get the people that are saying, why the hell are people complaining? This game's great, yada, yada, yada. So I absolutely understand everyone's point of view, and no matter where you stand on this issue, I'm going to try and explain it as best I can from each point of view and, try and give my thoughts on my stance on World of Warcraft right now. So I'm going to go ahead and start the bulk of this discussion at what I think WoW's current state is and what I think of Warlords of Draenor as an expansion and things of that matter. So I'm going to be flat out honest and say that I think Warlords of Draenor, honestly, to this point has been a very, very good expansion. I love the raiding content, even though I haven't been able to do it. What I've experienced through Raid Finder, wow, me doing Raid Finder, what the hell has happened over the course of the last year? Anyway, what I've experienced through the story, the legendary quests, the questing from 90 to 100, the zones themselves, the world bosses, everything, the heroic dungeons, everything like that, I think has been phenomenal. To be quite honest, oh, there goes my phone. To be quite honest, up to this point, I think this expansion has probably been my favorite out of the recent expansions. Kata, I really didn't like, other than Firelands. I had a lot of fun. Mists, I thought was good in some aspects, but poor in others. Particularly down the stretch, I thought that Pandaria just kind of lacked any real direction, and it had bad image off the bat because of the trailer and people hating on it before they even knew what the game was like. So Pandaria was just kind of a train wreck from the beginning. And the last two expansions have kind of been like, okay, Blizzard wants to move on and get on to the next thing, and then they finally get on to the next thing, and then they freak the fuck out because people have been unsubscribing or not enjoying the content, or whatever the thing may be. Now, the thing that I really, really loved about Warlords right off the bat was just the environment. Draenor is an awesome planet to level on. The zones, I'm going to go ahead and say this. This expansion is the only time in my history of playing World of Warcraft, at least me personally, where I haven't hated at least one zone through the new leveling content. In Outland, I hated a lot of zones. In Northrend, I hated Zuldrak, if I remember it's called correctly, and then in Kata, I hated a lot of zones. In Mists, I hated few zones, I think, although Mist leveling from 85 to 90 was pretty good, actually. I liked Mist's leveling a lot, too, but I think there were a few zones that I didn't particularly care for. But in Draenor, even leveling my monk now on the Alliance 90 to 100, I can definitively say that there isn't one zone in Draenor that I hate. Obviously, there are some that I like more than others, but not a single one that I hate. And I think that's the first time I have never hated a zone in an expansion, like, ever. So that's definitely a step in the right direction, but that's just for me. Another thing about Warlords that I've liked is the raiding content. The raiding content has been very good. Lengthier raids with a lot of really interesting boss fights. The raids look cool, everything like that. It's really, really awesome stuff, and I love to see WoW raids back in action and, really I mean, even the raids in Pandaria were really good. I thought Siege of Orgrimmar was right in scale, and I thought like the later bosses were really cool in Siege, but it just kind of lacked a certain feel. But I thought Throne of Thunder was really, really good. And then the beginning ones were kind of iffy, but and then in Kata there were a lot of good ones. I thought all the raids in Kata were good except for Dragon Soul, which should obviously be the best one since it was the last expansion raid, but shit happened. As far as the garrisons, it may sound like I don't like them because they seem to be the reason why people are losing the game, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But the fact is, I really don't hate the garrisons. In fact, I like them a lot. I think they are a good aspect to the game, and there was a lot of hype surrounding them, and for good reason. It is a good feature. It's just not really utilized properly, which isn't a big shock considering that Blizzard usually gets a lot of really good ideas and then falls flat on their face trying to please fans. The thing I have with Blizzard is that they just try too hard to please everybody and include everybody in the scene of World of Warcraft. And to be quite honest, that's just not possible for any game, ever. For any TV show, for any game, for any sport, whatever, anything in life, you're never going to get everyone or a huge diversity of people to enjoy it to a long extent. It's just not possible. But this is what Blizzard is trying to do with World of Warcraft, and I think that's why it's falling flat on its face, is because Blizzard has no direction, at least from a gameplay and a feature and all that stuff. I think WoW as a game, fundamentally, is more enjoyable than it has been ever, really. I think every expansion it gets better, from the UI to the features to the spell effects to now new race models, things like that. I think aesthetically it's really, really beautiful game. The music's kick-ass like it always has been. The environments look awesome. Everything is in place for World of Warcraft to be better than it's ever been, and in my opinion it is. But not everyone feels that way about it. And that's because World of Warcraft is kind of losing what made it World of Warcraft. And what I mean by this is, again, going back to the whole single-player experience of Warlords of Draenor in particular, is that people want to focus on the story and not so much the interaction with other players. You go through dungeons with Group Finder and things like that, and no one ever talks in the group ever. It's like you're playing with NPCs. They don't talk. You just go through the dungeon, get your shit, and leave. Same thing with Raid Finder, especially with some communication, mostly derogatory towards other players, but some explaining the fights if you do occasionally wipe in Raid Finder, which some of the fights actually can be a bit difficult at times if people don't know what to do. Go figure, I know. And things like that. I love the new raiding difficulties. I think it works quite well, despite what some people may say, about too many difficulties. I don't think it's really that much of an issue, because Blizzard is trying to expand the game from casuals to hardcore players, and that's not a bad thing. They're just trying to have so many different demographics of gamers, and they're just doing it in a kind of roundabout and not good way. But as far as everything else is concerned, again, I have very high praise for Warlords of Draenor. I think it's a great expansion so far, and to be quite honest, it's my favorite since Wrath, which Wrath was my favorite, then Vanilla, then BC, and now Warlords. I really, really like Warlords. I can't stress that enough, and a lot of people don't. So I'm getting kind of off topic here. I'm just not used to the whole video format anymore, since it's been forever since I've done any kind of discussion. So let me go ahead and get into why I think so many people are leaving. Well, I think there are any number of factors why people are leaving World of Warcraft, and I think a part of them are the garrisons, as I've alluded to throughout this video, but I don't think they're solely to blame. They do make the game a lot more single player in nature, meaning that you can queue for dungeons, raid finder, PvP, even have banks and do your professions now and all that in your garrisons. So I think that kind of makes it a little more boring, just because you stay in one place and just do all the shit throughout the game, and it doesn't add any sense of exploration or that there's a world outside of your little bubble. So I think that's one aspect where the garrisons are flawed. But I think the garrisons as a whole are a good thing. They make professions a bit easier, but a lot of people don't like that because it makes them a lot more irrelevant, and pretty much anyone can raise professions quite easily, which is definitely a legitimate concern. Again, I think the garrisons are only a part of why people are leaving World of Warcraft. I think another big factor to keep in mind is the fact that, again, people claim that it's too easy, but I don't really think that's the case. I'm going to take one from DD Guides here and say that the game is more difficult than it has been in a while, actually. I mean, mythic shit is really hard. Challenge mode dungeons are actually pretty damn difficult as well. And there may be Raid Finder and there may be, normal mode raiding, and neither of those are particularly challenging. But still, I don't think difficulty is really that big of an issue. And there are really only an elite subset of people that are really hardcore that mind the absolutely intense difficulty of, say, Burning Crusade or Vanilla. And I think most people, including myself, preferred the difficulty of, say, Wrath of the Lich King, where they added heroic raiding, and it just made, normal raiding a little bit easier, but it was still very difficult, and, just added a certain new aspect where more people could get into raiding and the hardcore could still have their really hard difficulty. So I don't think difficulty is really that big of an issue. I mean, sure, Raid Finder is extremely easy and it is more of a tourist mode of, selected raids, but I've been on both ends of the spectrum at this point, and I used to harbor a deep hatred for Raid Finder, and I still don't particularly care for it a lot. But I will say it is certainly convenient for people that just want to see the story. And I am a lore nerd myself, and it's me not having time to raid anymore. Raid Finder has kind of become my crutch to still be involved with the content, do the legendary quest, and get to experience the story of World of Warcraft, because that's something that I didn't get to do in Vanilla or Burning Crusade because I wasn't good enough to raid. So it certainly is a good aspect. Again, maybe it could use some tweaking and not be as much of a joke, but overall, I don't have that big of an issue with Raid Finder anymore. And another thing I think is just the lack of the world in World of Warcraft, right? Putting the world back in World of Warcraft. What does this mean? Well, obviously they've added, or re-added, I should say, world bosses, and that's a step in the right direction, but again, there's not too much incentive to go out and do world bosses. I mean, other than, like who does the ones at launch anymore? The ones that were available shortly after launch. Nobody. People only do that Firebird, I can't remember his name, but he's in Spires of Iraq, and people only do that one, just like people only did the one that was in Throne of Thunder or the Guardians on Timeless Isle, because the previous patch just becomes so outdated that there's no incentive anymore. And I think that's always been a problem with WoW, and I don't think that's really ever anything that'll get too fixed, is that the fact that, everything just gets outdated so quickly, and it is hard to keep track of, especially when it's an MMO and it's been going on for 10 years, and it's hard to find, to make ways, to get these old content to be relevant again. I don't know if it'll ever happen. And they're trying that with the Time Walker dungeon events in 6.2, where every weekend they're going to have BC or Wrath dungeons, be available, and you can scale down or whatever, and then whatever loot you get will scale up to level 100 gear and stuff like that. And it's a cool idea, and I like it a lot, actually. So Blizzard is trying to please fans, but again, going back to what I said earlier, they try a little too hard to please fans. And ultimately, I think the number one aspect to me is not only that it's a game that's 10 years old. I don't think the idea itself is so tiring. I just think the game industry around World of Warcraft over the past 10 years has just changed, significantly. And I think that poses a big problem because, you see mobile games like Clash of Clans make, billions of dollars, and these big AAA titles like Dragon Age Inquisition or WoW are just kind of left in the background and not make as much money, even though they cost a shit ton more to make, even though they are well rated within their respective communities. So I think that just about wraps this up as to why I think people are leaving, and just my thoughts on the expansion as a whole. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.